Editor-in-Chief of Just the News, and welcome to the March edition of the Freedom Economy Index, one of my favorite moments in my month. This is one of the most novel surveys in America. Why? Because it is measuring the sentiments on Main Street, 50,000 small businesses weighing in. And man, this month we've got a major headline for you. Over the next few minutes, we're going to be joined by some extraordinary players in the new freedom economy, including Michael Seifert from PublicSquare and my good friend Andrew Krapachetz from RedBalloon. Gentlemen, good to have you back.
Happy New Year and happy Monday.
Great to see you guys.
Happy New Year. There is a sudden happiness on Main Street when I'm looking at these incredible statistics that you guys have put together. I think when we last talked around the election, about 60% of businesses thought, well, we're headed towards a recession. Now it's just 9%, and about more than 60% are actually excited that there's going to be expansion. Michael, let me start with you. In politics, there are course corrections, and every so often there are U-turns. This is a U-turn, right?
It is a total 180, John. This is one of the more dramatic economic U-turns in sentiment I have seen in my entire lifetime. You nailed it on the opening statistics. I mean, the fact that 60% of our respondents in October saw a recession on the horizon, the near-term horizon, and now actually only 9% see that same recession looming, and 68% are actually expecting growth this year. On top of that, 80% of our respondents, and this just puts it all into perspective, say that their economic outlook has improved since the election. Elections matter, they have consequences, and certainly for our Main Street community of business owners between PublicSquare and RedBalloon, we are seeing that the positivity has reached a newfound high over the last 90 to 120 days. It's very exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And Andrew, one of the most stunning things, about a fourfold increase in the number of businesses who are planning to expand. It was only about 9% in October, now over 32%. What's driving that optimism, and why the sudden U-turn when you look at it?
Yeah, well, and I think optimism is actually the right word to use, right? We see this in sports. When a team believes they can win, suddenly they can win, right? When you believe that you have an opportunity, then suddenly that opportunity exists because of the effort and the belief that you put into it. And small businesses in America believe they can win now. The economic headwinds that they've been facing over the last 4 years are lessening, and in fact, they feel like are now tailwinds and are now pushing them towards economic growth. They see inflation dialing down. They see taxes maybe going down. They see, they can actually buy eggs for their children, and maybe they can use the excess money that they use, that they save from the eggs, to actually turn around and invest in their business. A lot of these businesses, 32% say that they're going to hire for expansion, and that was only 9.5% back in October. So you have this dramatic growth, and I think a lot of that is just optimism. People feel like they can win. They see winning happening in DC, and they want to bring it to Main Street and their community.
Well, one common thing that has carried over from the October survey is that we still have a pretty tight labor market, Andrew. That's why people should be using RedBalloon to go find their employees. But tell us a little bit about why the labor market remains tight and what that will mean for small businesses over the next several months.
Yeah, J.D. Vance actually said this in one of his speeches, where he talked about when you have access to cheap labor, which is a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, you don't have to innovate, you don't have to push. And so as ICE is dealing with that problem in America, where we don't have the access to illegals, we need to be innovating, and I think that's a good thing. So that's going to be a short-term pain that's going to turn into extraordinary economic growth in the future. The other thing is we've made it very easy in America for people to not work. And I think that is both demoralizing to the individual and demoralizing for our country. There are some stats that show that 3.5 working age men from 25 to 35 years old are not even participating in the labor market. So that is 3.5 25 to 35-year-old men. This is like prime age. This is when you're building your careers, when you're getting out there, and instead they're actually in their parents' basements playing video games. And we need to make it a lot harder for them to not work. And if they can get back into the labor market and we can give them a work ethic all over again, we're going to see the American economy continue to boom. And we're also going to get the values that come from hard work, because that's how you make great people, is through doing hard things and accomplishing them. So I'm optimistic, but businesses are still struggling to find good people. And it's been good for Red Balloon, but I'd love to see America find the people they need to succeed.
Yeah, and it is a cultural change for that generation. There's no doubt about it. Michael, if you read the legacy news media the last 6 weeks, you'd swear the world was coming to the end over tariffs. But interestingly, you asked that question of small businesses. It didn't seem like a lot of small businesses were worried about tariffs at all.
You're exactly right. In fact, here's a list of things they were worried about more than tariffs. They're worried about inflation, still residing after the Biden administration. They're worried about high taxes. Similarly, they're worried about government regulation. In fact, 48% of our respondents said that high taxes is the thing they're most worried about. 4 in 10 folks said that government regulations keep them up at night. 32% said a recession. 31% said changing consumer habits. 30% said lack of reliable employees. In fact, and here's what blew me away, more people that responded to the survey, again, Main Street American business owners, are more worried about AI posing a competitive threat than they are about tariffs. So you would think if the mainstream media were honest actors, they would actually report the facts. That on the laundry list of concerns for a small business owner in the United States, tariffs rank near the bottom, not near the top. And the good news too, John, is that we've had some amazing headlines come out the past few days about how the tariffs are actually working. Just today, Hyundai, a South Korean company, announced $20 billion in investment in the United States, with $5 billion going to a new steel plant in Louisiana. Those are American jobs. Rolls-Royce this morning announced that they're going to be moving more of their manufacturing back to the United States, which is one of the most serious players in the world of airline engines and general engineering marvels in the world. They're moving their production back to the United States in response to Trump's tariffs. So I think that this sends a clear message. American business owners are not concerned about tariffs. In fact, if anything, they're more concerned about the government getting out of the way for small businesses to be able to produce right here in the United States, which only comes through decreasing regulation for Americans and increasing regulation and tariffs to these foreign actors. So I think that President Trump's agenda is certainly in alignment with the desires of our business community.
Yeah, that's really noticeable. In fact, the top 3 priorities for President Trump line up perfectly with the top 3 concerns. Mike, I want to stay with you just for 1 second. There's been over $3 trillion of new investment announced since President Trump won the election. You mentioned Hyundai today, Honda not that long ago. You got Taiwan Semiconductor. This is one of the largest renaissances of return to manufacturing in America. And downstream from those big manufacturing investments, there are enormous opportunities for Main Street and small businesses. Talk a little bit about the trickle-down effect of what these big investments are going to mean for Main Street businesses.
Well, you know, what's really exciting, John, is that we're actually hearing daily now from small business owners reaching out, asking how they can repatriate more of their products back to the United States. They feel like it's a new golden age. They really feel innately like this is the window in time to build and build here domestically. They've got a lot of air cover from the administration. There are certain incentives and programs that are really starting to get publicity that are helping inspire business owners to move their production back to the United States. And what's cooler than everything that I just mentioned is that we're actually seeing some business owners start to collaborate with other business owners, sharing manufacturing facilities and trying to champion each other's growth and success in peripheral industries. So I think that the biggest takeaway for us and our business recently has been to witness small business owners that say, hey, I was making 20 to 30% of my stuff in the United States. I feel like the next 2 years, I could actually feasibly pull off manufacturing 100% of my goods here. And it's inspiring for them to hear speeches from people like Vice President J.D. Vance saying that this is the legacy that America needs to craft moving forward over the next coming generations. We want to be a country that focuses again on the American people, the American worker, and ultimately the American entrepreneur and their ability to build here in their local communities. So it's definitely exciting energy related to manufacturing.
It is amazing how quickly the policy led to energy led to real developments. And earlier, I think we touched on this a little bit, that the tight labor market in some ways is viewed as having a connection to our immigration policies. I was shocked by this, Andrew. The number one Trump priority that small businesses were cheering on was closing the border down and getting rid of the illegal aliens who are taking up potential cheap labor positions in the market. Tell us a little bit about why that finished number one.
Well, I think what businesses have been realizing, and I'm going to actually quick piggyback on what Michael was saying. We've seen America when we outsourced all of our manufacturing, when we said, look, we are going to do the innovation and we're going to have all the lowly manufacturing happen in other countries. What that did is it basically was prideful, like, oh, we can do innovation without being close to that. But the reality is that innovation is right on the edge of manufacturing. You learn the most when you're actually doing stuff rather than when you're thinking theoretically. And I think this came out of our universities, and that's a side note. But I think it's exciting to think about manufacturing returning to America because that's actually where innovation happens. Unfortunately, when you have, I'll call it cheap labor, people who aren't thinking about their manufacturing, they're just kind of going through the steps and not actually trying to think, how do we bring efficiency? How do we bring effectiveness? That changes manufacturing in America to not just be something that just happens, but where innovation happens. And what Michael is talking about, and I hear this from businesses on the Red Balloon side as well, like, hey, I'm actually starting to collaborate with other businesses in my space. We want to share knowledge, we want to share ability, and we want to use that to win in the marketplace and bring just incredible innovation through manufacturing. And you do that when you're close to the actual production of goods and services. And we've lost a lot of that. And I think when you rely on cheap labor, either domestically or internationally, you don't innovate at the point of developing the goods and services. And so getting back to having great American workers deliver value is going to totally change the economy. And we're going to see innovation happen in the manufacturing sector. That's going to be really exciting.
One of the things I've heard most from business CEOs in the last few months is that the innovation cycle seems to be ramping up again. And that's something that was pretty dormant during the 4 years of the Biden presidency. Now, there's another disconnect with the legacy media, and I want to stay with you for a second, Andrew. If you read day in and day out, Ukraine, Russia on the front pages all the time, always a top concern for reporters, didn't seem to be a big concern for small business.
No, the reality is small businesses, they are focused on paying their bills, raising their family, blessing their community, and trying to figure out how they can have their business survive. And look, Trump is putting time and effort into some of the international conflicts because those are going to produce global headwinds. But he is realizing that America needs to be first and needs to be first for all of our businesses. And I talk to dozens of businesses around the country every single week and just kind of ask them what they're thinking about. And never does some of those international issues come up. They want to survive in America. They want to see America be great again. And I wish the legacy media would actually report on what people are thinking. But that's okay. If they want to kill themselves, it's kind of their deal.
Yeah, Main Street is a quintessentially American boulevard. There's no doubt about it, and you can see that in these surveys findings today. Michael, I want to turn to another one of those massive U-turns, not only in the optimism of the country, but in its economy, but also in the ability of government to shrink itself. Before the election, 92% of people said they didn't think government would ever be shrunk again. And since then, a really significant change among these small business owners. Tell us what you found about Elon Musk and Doge.
Well, this is actually one of those examples like tariffs or like general economic sentiment where the mainstream media could not be further from the truth. We've been told that tariffs are a deep concern. Small business owners say doesn't even rank top 5. We've been told that the sentiment is low and everyone is negative. Our small business owners are saying it's time to build, baby. And then if you look at Doge and Elon, we've been told that Elon is this grand tyrannical oligarch that wants to take away your benefits. Here's the reality. 79% of our business community said that they strongly approve of the work that Elon Musk is doing. They love that Doge is getting in here and actually making government effective again. Folks have forgotten for the last few decades, the government works for us. And we as business owners would never tolerate wasteful spending, fraudulent activity, lack of transparency in where our dollars are going. If our government was ever hired in the private sector, they'd be fired within an hour. And so Elon is taking his private sector expertise, one of the greatest CEOs America's ever known, and he's getting into the government and he's actually making it work for the people again. And our community is really appreciative. In fact, 71% said they're extremely or very confident that Elon and Doge will be successful in cutting waste and government spending. So there's a great deal of hope here. 77% called the attacks on Elon for accessing government data. They called it fake outrage by those opposed to the presidency. And ultimately, we actually went even further, John, and we asked our business owners what they want Elon to target the most. 15% said the HHS. which includes the FDA, the CDC, the NIH, one of the largest government agencies. 15% said the Department of Education. 14% said the DOJ, which includes the FBI. And the rest of the agencies were in single digits. So not only have our business owners said, yes, cut wasteful spending, cut the fraud, we need transparency, they've even made a laundry list and a wish list of what they hope goes first.
They even have their priorities. They've thought it through that much. There's an interesting connection between what Main Street has been wanting and what happens when you shrink government. Obviously, if you shrink government, you take the regulatory burden off there. If you shrink government, you can cut taxes. But a third one, which was one of the top priorities at the top of the survey, was that the more government shrinks and the less we borrow, the quicker that interest rates go down, inflation goes down. Small business America understands that cutting government has a direct impact on inflation. Right, Michael?
That's exactly right. I mean, the reality is our monetary policy in the United States for a long time has deprioritized the American people. And ultimately, at the end of the day, folks are starting to put the pieces together from a macroeconomic perspective about how the Federal Reserve is deeply involved into their own financial well-being for them and their family. I think that folks are recognizing sort of the battle that the Fed is ultimately in. And I think a lot of folks are also recognizing right now the power that small minutia interest rate changes can have on the broader economy. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what this should help us all realize is that our economy is a problem if it's purely reliant upon day-by-day decisions out of the Fed. I think that ultimately, at the end of the day, the American people and business owners, and this is similar to that cutting of government regulation, they're wanting to go back to basics. They're wanting to be able to live in a country where if we build more, economic output will follow, and we will reap the benefits of our hard work. But unfortunately, our economy has come so financialized, and it's been so wrapped up in monetary policy that has been controlled ultimately by more of a globalist oligarchy rather than actual America First economic actors. So I think it's been a real eye in, people have pulled back the curtain, they've looked in the window and they've seen how interest rates can actually drastically affect their economic standing. And I think that shifting that economically over the next 4 years is going to have to be one of Trump's main priorities. He wants to actually build a firm foundation underneath the economy such that whether the interest rates are high or low, it doesn't actually affect the strength of our fundamentals. And let's hope he can do it over the next few years.
We're going to talk about that in a second, what the options are. Andrew, I want to talk for a second about the epic battle that's going to be pitting the United States, or already is pitting the United States against China. That is the race for artificial intelligence or AI supremacy. You would think, well, maybe that's not a big small business issue, but your survey found a lot of concern and engagement on AI and what it means for the future. Tell us a little bit about what you found.
Yeah, back last February, we found that only 8.4% of businesses that we surveyed were actually using AI, fully implementing AI, using that as part of our of their day-to-day business. That's up to now a quarter of our businesses are actually using AI, fully implementing AI. And we have 51% said they're intrigued by AI and basically learning more about it. So you're seeing a wider adoption of AI throughout the business model, actually starting to use it all over the place. And I think there's a couple different reasons for that. People have been nervous about AI because they've seen the movies, they've seen Terminator, they know that's bad. But I think it's also connected with when we've had this kind of significant cancel culture in America, where you felt like at any moment technology, if you were reliant on it, it was going to kill your business. We saw that with Parler, we saw that with others. People just were not willing to adopt a new technology that they didn't trust. And then Elon Musk comes out with Grok, and all of a sudden we start to see there's a variety of different AIs out there. We don't have this cancel culture that's so pervasive in the economy in the same way. And I think people are like, okay, this is an important tool. This is a tool that if we use it well, it's going to be a huge boon for our business. And so we're seeing a lot more adoption. And I think it's the optionality and it's the decrease in cancel culture that have kind of been the signal to our small businesses of, okay, it's okay to use AI. We just need to be careful. But we're definitely going to use it because it is an incredible tool that's going to bring in not a lot of efficiency to small businesses, even on Main Street. It's really an important tool. It'll be interesting to see how that adoption brings productivity and efficiency to those businesses.
That's amazing. And the future is going to be full of all sorts of progress on this front. So every day, I think small businesses are going to be learning more about how artificial intelligence can drive innovation, can drive efficiencies in their business. It's going to be very, very interesting to watch. I want to turn to the last really unique aspect of this survey, and that is you ask an open-ended question. And it's a little dangerous for pollsters to ask an open-ended question, but there is a lot of intelligence that comes out of the question you asked. And that question was, what does your business need more right now to survive and thrive? Andrew, let me start with you. I think there's two things here. You see a diagnosis of the problem, and then you see a pointer towards a solution. Andrew, give us what people defined as the problem right now.
Yeah, they need customers. Obviously, every business needs more customers, people who are willing to pay for things. But I think they're actually going deeper on that. They're realizing that the reason that they're struggling to find customers is there's no disposable income in the economy. We feel like we've used all of our reserves over the last 4 years. We have just expended everything. We have a lot of credit card debt. We basically are running on empty as an economy and as individuals in this economy over the last 4 years in the Biden administration. And so what our businesses are saying is, man, we need customers who actually want to spend money, who want to do stuff. And we're seeing that with the optimism. And I think that is going to trickle down into people taking bets, people taking risks, people finding capital. But the first thing they need to do is they need to identify customers. They need a flow of money. They need a velocity of money in our economy so that we can actually thrive as small businesses.
Yeah, you're right. Everyone's savings were dried up during the Biden years and inflation. Michael, there's an interesting pointer in this. Another problem that I think small businesses painfully understood. It's not unfamiliar with what we all experienced when we went to the pumps during the Biden era, and that is that energy drives so much of the economy. Lower energy costs, which we're beginning to see now for the first time, lower eggs, lower energy in the last couple of weeks. Big goal and a big important issue for Main Street America, right?
That's exactly right. We saw energy prices skyrocket under the Biden administration. And the most unfortunate reality in that season was that it was all preventable. And all it took is an administration now, in the Trump administration, that's prioritizing the decrease of energy costs. And it's working. They're cutting regulation and trying to put pressure on the American energy companies to actually drill and drill quicker. We're trying to cut red tape that keeps them from doing that historically, trying to deprioritize a reliance on foreign energy. And it all pays off when you look at the price at the pump. It felt really good, John, to see gas under $3 in my town again the other day. Felt like a breath of fresh air. And I think that, the spike in energy costs was called out by our respondents as a major problem they experienced during the Biden administration. And seeing that overturned now is something that's put some fresh wind in their sails. And I think even, one other interesting response that we received from business owners is that they just want the government to move faster. They love what President Trump is doing. They love what this administration is prioritizing. Their only request is really, can we move any faster? And I think that that's why you're seeing some of these activist judges trying to push back on President Trump's initiatives out of the executive branch. Yeah, I think it's a mistake. I think the left is overplaying their hand because I think they're yet again not recognizing what the American people actually want. They've given President Trump and this administration a clear mandate. They want him to go execute, and they're wanting anybody in the way to get out of the way. This is the will of the people, and it's going to have a lot of positive benefits. A decrease in energy costs is obviously one of them.
All right. So President Trump has a clear roadmap. It's clearly aligned with the Main Street USA business priorities, small business priorities. Congress still has a lot to do to catch up to President Trump, who's racing ahead. I want to end with both of you weighing in on what is the most important thing that Congress can do to help Main Street. Michael, we'll start with you.
Well, I would just say they have to express the same level of urgency that's coming out of the executive branch right now. You see folks in Doge, or you see folks in the White House sleeping on the floor. They're working around the clock to get our country back on the right path. You're not seeing Congress act with the same urgency. So I know as a business founder, Andrew knows as a business founder, whoever feels the most level of missional commitment to their cause and a deep sense of urgency to accomplish their vision, they're going to win. And so we're seeing that level of urgency and that deep missional commitment to the mandate given by the American people in the White House. We need to see it also in Congress. Right now, it feels like they're overly lackadaisical about the mandate that was given, and they assume it's just another election cycle. What they don't recognize is that the American people spoke very loud in November of 2024 in the general election. The American people can speak very loudly in the midterms in primarying some of the people on the Republican side of the aisle that do not move with the same sense of urgency that the American people would expect. So I would really encourage members of Congress to heed the call and the will of the American people and step up. This is a unique golden age. Business owners recognize it. The executive branch recognizes it. The legislative branch needs to recognize it as well.
This ain't the time for tiptoeing. People want to be their government running, and it's really interesting to watch that. Andrew, last word with you. It's really interesting to see the focus on regulation, lower taxes, lowering inflation. Congress has the ability to take care of all that by renewing the Trump tax cuts, which I know are essential to mainstream. What is the most important thing Congress has to keep its eye on over the next few months?
Well, I think the reality is that the silver lining of COVID was that it woke up America. It was a complete overreach. And I think what's encouraging the most to me is that America is still awake. Often conservatives, they get all worked up about a thing and then they go back to sleep. They go back to taking care of their family and ignore it. And not this time. And I think politicians who are not paying attention to that trend are going to lose out. And it's actually really exciting. Even in my state of Idaho, they just announced they're going to have a DOJ-style committee who is going to be focused on government efficiency in our state. And so that is going to continue to push across the entire country. I think you're going to see state after state realize that if we don't bring government efficiency, if we don't bring visibility, if we don't actually tell the American people what we're doing, we are going to lose and we're going to get kicked out, and we're going to get kicked out resoundingly. And so Congress needs to, as Michael said, feel that sense of urgency. It's coming for them. And if they don't get with the program, they're going to need to find themselves another job.
Yeah, there's so much that Congress can do to get money back into the pockets of working Americans. That will drive those small businesses to greater success. And of course, we don't want to fritter away and spend away in the government what we really need to grow inside the economy. So 2 big opportunities for Congress. Gentlemen, I love this survey. I love doing this every time we get together. It is one of the most innovative, insightful surveys anywhere in America. Folks, if you want to go get the results, go to freedomeconomy.us. Go download them, go read them, go share them with your friends. That's what I'm going to do on social media in a couple seconds. A fantastic set of findings, and it gets me excited for what lies over the horizon for the next survey in a few months. Gentlemen, I'm sure we'll get together again soon. Thanks for joining me today, and I want to wish everybody a great Monday. A lot of food for thought here in this great survey tape. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff.